as a university and counseling center director and leader, I am part of a larger network of college and university leaders in mental health across the country. Directors in counseling centers, we're really well organized, and we share a tremendous amount of information. One of the things we do on an annual basis, and we've been doing it for decades, is collecting lots of information about what we're seeing and what we're doing in counseling centers, again, all over the country. And one of the basic questions that we ask and we gather is what are students bringing to those clinical offices? What are the clinicians speaking to college students about? And the top three issues were really consistent for a really long time. About a third of students seeking mental health services were struggling with what was described as depression. And then just under a third, it was anxiety. And then the third most prevalent issue was relationships, and relationships being intimate dating partners, friends, peers, and family, and the struggles with family relationships. So depression, anxiety, and relationships were just predominantly the three issues, with depression at top. And then we started to see anxiety creeping up a little bit. And then it was in 2010. So now a dozen years ago, where anxiety surpassed depression as the most prevalent issue that students are bringing to the university counseling centers. And every year since then, the percentage of students reporting just impairing levels of anxiety has grown exponentially. Now, this past year, 70% of students that are seeking mental health services on campuses are reporting some degree of distress around anxiety. It's remarkable when you see this plotted out on a graph. Just reports of struggles with anxiety has grown and grown and grown. And it's no surprise too that what's grown alongside that, what Nancy captured in those narratives, is loneliness and isolation. Because the most prevalent type of anxiety that we're seeing is social anxiety, increasing prevalence of social anxiety, which is a fear of engaging with others. And if we have a fear and apprehension of engaging with others, we're going to be more prone to be isolated because of the difficulty in not being isolated. So the question then becomes, why is that trend the way it is? Why might our young adults be more and more anxious, and particularly socially anxious? There's another line of research that just follows, correlates really well with this, and they've been tracking experiences of our children and adolescents over decades as well. And one of the questions that they've been asking since 1987 was, how much time do you spend with your peers, face-to-face, engaging in social activity with your peers? And the smallest category, the least amount of time, is 0 to 5 hours a week. And in 1987, only 17% of high school seniors that were surveyed, 17% said they spent 0 to 5 hours a week with their peers. And now, today, that number is almost reaching 50%. 50% of high school seniors are spending 0 to 5 hours a week with their peers in face-to-face interactions. So, to me, that is probably the most single powerful data point that explains the increase in social anxiety. We also see that trend is happening with all other types of social activity. So the percentage of students that are dating, engaging in like partying behavior in high school, engaged in high school athletics, engaged in part-time work in high school, engaged in communities of faith, volunteering opportunities, all of those are on the decline as well, which again is leading to greater isolation. And I think those changes are in part because how we are shifting as a society and how we have shifted in our parenting. It's in my general judgment and interpretation of these findings is that children have less opportunity to engage with their peers without us around, without adult supervision. And I think we have been raised as parents to feel a sense of responsibility that we should be overseeing what they're doing and we should be intervening when they are starting to struggle with some social activity. Like when they start fighting with their peers, we feel a sense of obligation that we should help and intervene in some kind of way. But if you think about it, and so many of us, we had the opportunity to do that. We were outside with our friends, with our peers, and we had the freedom to do a lot of things that really helped grow our interpersonal skills. We had the freedom to engage in imaginary play. We had to negotiate rules with our peers. We had to argue with our peers if those rules didn't make sense. We had to renegotiate rules. We had to learn how to fight with each other, but more importantly, how to reconcile with each other. All of those lead to the development of more sophisticated interpersonal skills. So I think that our children and adolescents have less opportunity in those types of situations. Therefore, it's not that they don't have the skills or are incapable of it, but it's just they haven't had enough time, exposure, and opportunity to be in those situations to cultivate those skills. So now they're getting to college with far less experience, sitting across from someone they really don't know and engaging in a conversation, and a meaningful conversation, a conversation about things that are important to them. That is new territory. It's unfamiliar territory. And of course, we're nervous and anxious when we're doing something new. But so often our impulse can be, if it's scary, I should avoid it and stay away. I think another part of the intervention is how can we reframe some of the anxiety we experience and retrain ourselves to approach the anxiety, approach the things that worry us. And that will help retrain us to not be as anxious about those things. So that's really where I spend a lot of my time on campuses, thinking about how we can reshape our learning environments to take into account this higher prevalence of anxiety, because education, in my opinion, and many others, it is an interpersonal endeavor. It is a social endeavor. We expect students to engage and build relationships with people all over campus, with their faculty, with their academic advisors, with their peers, with other campus leaders, and engage in activities. That's really hard if you haven't done a lot of that before. And it can really get in the way of the academic admission and their academic success. So rethinking about how we can help them lean into the anxiety, not listen to it too strongly, some of it, and take the challenges and the risk to engage in relationships with other people. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, what's going to be the cure for isolation is connecting with other people, dialoguing with other people, spending time with other people, and just making that more and more a deeper part of our lives.